Well, we continue to follow all the details of this boat rescue happening in Southern California.
Still a lot to be learned, but it is just a tragic scenario. It's been more than 6 hours now since this boat initially caught fire, and now we have learned that it has sunk. The Coast Guard giving an update. 34 people are currently unaccounted for. 5 members of the crew were awake at the time on the bridge of the boat at 3:30 this morning, and they were able to jump off the ship into the water. They were rescued by a boat nearby. Those 34 people were sleeping below deck. The commercial scuba diving boat was set to come back this evening from a weekend excursion off the coast. The boat only 20 yards from shoreline. There are not any reports of other people on the boat who were able to escape and swim to shore. Unbelievable. The cause of the fire is still unknown. Former Arizona's family reporter and member of Good Morning Arizona team, Dan Davis, is actually near the Channel Islands right now, and he's on the phone with us. Dan, very disturbing news. You're viewing this nearby from your place in Oxnard.
Yeah, it's just tragic here this morning. There's no other way to describe it, especially when you see family members coming to the Coast Guard desperately, and I mean desperately, trying to find out information about their relatives. But we have a second home over here in Oxnard on the Channel Islands harbor. So the Santa Cruz Island is like the dominant landmark when you look out across the beach, and it's about 20 miles offshore. And it's a terrific dive area because on the leeward side of the islands, the water is never stirred up. It's crystal clear. I've kayaked out there. I've not dove, but it's just a spectacular place to go. And there are a number of dive boats that are available here on Channel Islands, Ventura, and then on up to Santa Barbara, where I understand this boat came from.
And that boat is such a huge boat. They said 75 feet, and it burned for a while. Were you able to actually see while it was on fire?
No, it was already light when I got up, and ironically, my first notice that there had been an accident out there was in the New York Daily News as I was going through my morning newspaper. So I did go down to the Coast Guard station. I saw one ambulance leave, and maybe you have that video of a woman down there trying to find out about her relative. I'm not sure if it's a son or a husband, but you can see she was just totally in a panic. She was actually running up and down the street, just searching desperately for somebody to talk to. Finally, I think the PIO from the local fire department got her inside the compound there at the Coast Guard. One of the things that I think is a little surprising is the Coast Guard or officials were not prepared for family members to show up, and they were kind of left stranded. There's got to be a dozen news crews out there, but they finally opened up a place across the street, and now they're being taken care of. But it was just, it's just heart-wrenching to see the people who are so much more affected by it than we are.
Yeah, and you think maybe a trip of a lifetime, family members, you're not going on an excursion like that, likely alone. So maybe you're with a relative or you're with a best friend. I mean, the ripple effect of the losses of these people is going to be so profound for those who are on shore.
Yeah,
my understanding, they just had a news conference here. Maybe you had some of it, but right now the only survivors are crew members who are already awake and starting to get breakfast going. They don't really provide much more detail than that. There was a news crew as I was leaving that was taking a charter boat out there, so maybe soon we'll be able to see some video of the area, although I don't know how much you'll see if the boat is already sunk. But it clearly looked like an explosion, and from just talking to people down there by the Coast Guard office, that seems to be the consensus, because a boat fire doesn't get that big without some kind of big ignition.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Dan, for providing those details out from Southern California, and always good to hear your voice, buddy.
Yeah.